given that they were providing payment services outside of their regular commercial banking services, that it was important that we transform this space in order to ensure that the economy, sir, can get a booster, if you like, sir, with respect to how business is done generally in the country, but equally to ensure that person to person, that we're able to have fuller participation within the financial economy, given that there are still a significant number of persons who do not either have a bank account or an account with the credit union, but that financially including these people, sir, and having a mechanism whereby they can be included without having to register with a bank or a credit union was important. Now, this is not to say that we do not want to encourage people to get those types of savings and instruments offered by financial institutions. But if the economy is going to accelerate and to have fully inclusive growth, it is important to have a mechanism whereby persons are included financially. And so as you know, sir, when I did this debate in 2021, I informed the chamber that I had met with all of the financial institutions who provided payment services, including the credit unions at the time, the larger ones, as well as the league, in January of 2019, because we understood then that this was important in order to ensure that we can unlock opportunities for doing business, unlock access to credit, sir, and make it easier for any business operating in Barbados, any person operating a business in Barbados, or thinking of operating a business in Barbados, to be able to have better access to financing and therefore eliminate the hurdles that have been long-standing as it relates to businesses traditionally in the country. And we have embarked on a number of pieces of legislation in order to, on the one hand, sir, give the central bank regulatory authority in relation to payments, because, excuse me, what happened before was that we all remember CARS as a system, sir. CARS, everybody had a debit card, and you would go around Barbados with the card and you would do business, but that business was limited, obviously, to whether the merchant chose to engage with the system and pay the appropriate fees. Of course, having a bank account to be able to engage on the CARS system, but it was owned by the 5 commercial banks at the, well, 6, but 5 commercial banks at the time, and therefore the investment that each bank was making with respect to technology was at a different pace. And we felt it was important that we brought standards with respect to how payments are done in the country. But really and truly, sir, as technology has evolved globally, Barbados cannot be left behind, and therefore we felt it was important that in the public interest, given that there's a broad discussion about fees, that people were being charged to deal with this, we took a decision strategically to have not just remove the ownership of the payments, the underlying payments rail, from that of the commercial banks, vest that ownership in the central bank to ensure then that we have standards and rules with respect to how people utilize that system on the one hand, but to ensure that in the public interest, that the government making this investment will then be able to ensure that if, sir, as I would do now, sir, if I wanted a few dollars from you, you will go in your wallet, sir, and you if you have.
I remember you won't get any. I have not.
It is a scenario, sir, that I'm just painting for the benefit of the public, sir. But if I wanted a few dollars from you, sir, you will go into your wallet and give me physical cash. And we want to ensure that The ability to do that does not necessarily mean that we have to be present physically to do so, because it would mean, sir, that you got to leave where you live, or I got to leave where I am to come to you in order to facilitate that exchange and go about our business. And there's nothing wrong with that, so I want to make it clear to the public that what we are putting in place and what I'm sure by now most Barbadians have touched or heard the central bank team traversing all across Barbados for the last 3 months or so, sensitizing Barbadians as to what it is coming down the road so that they have a better understanding as to what is possible. And therefore, what ideally we want to be able to do is to allow Barbadians or anybody who is here living, working in Barbados to be able to do their business as conveniently as possible. And therefore, it will mean, sir, that there will be some disruption, positively so, because the ability now for the smallest business, sir, and all of us in here who know that we have a number of constituents who do business on WhatsApp and Instagram and all types of platforms, Facebook and the like, sir, advertising what it is they're offering. But currently, they don't necessarily have the ability to accept payments in real time, and therefore the ability to do that so that you're focusing now on not just the collection of money, but re-engineering your business now to focus more on the logistics, the delivery of the said goods or services, and therefore having a much more seamless way to manage cash. And so we feel that with the imminent rollout of the real-time payment system, the amendments before the Chamber today was broadly outlined when we did the original bill in 2021. The central bank, in looking at the types of regulations that are required for these types of platforms and systems globally, we've brought these amendments here today to ensure that there is absolute clarity, sir, with respect to the law and how financial institutions, sir, will be able to participate. And so in the amendments that are here, you're seeing the definitions as including which says the national payment systems, and it outlines people with payment systems, people providing payment services, sir, clearing systems, settlement systems, the processing of securities and any other financial instrument, as well as, broadly speaking, payment service providers. And I don't want to promote anybody's particular business, sir, but Barbadians do have some familiarity with some of these things. And I would only make these references, sir, because in our daily lives, we go about, we make purchases. Some stores will give you some points, sir, which you accumulate. And certainly it's Christmas time. I know some people will start to redeem some of those points when they shop at Christmas to get a few dollars off, sir. It is those types of systems to ensure that those who are offering that type of service, as well, that there's clear regulations around these types of things. Because at the end of the day, it is about settlement at the end of the day, and therefore, whether you are a direct payment service, so depending on where your interest may lie, you have the people who have the payment system branded, but you have the people in the back end who are doing the programming and these types of things, sir, that you need to make sure that if you are sending me a piece of change, sir, that when it hits my phone, that one, it comes to the right person, and that the transaction, whether it is the transfer of money, whether it is for the payment of goods and services, that the regulations around that are solid in the same way as we would have done with the carriage card, or if I have to go to your store physically, sir, and pay you in cash, that if we are doing these types of services digitally, that all of the necessary regulations around the security and all of that, those things are in place. Let me, sir, break it down even further. In your wallet, sir, right now, I will guess, sir, I will guess.
You're doing well. You're guessing.
You may have a debit card. You may have a debit card. The debit card is linked to your bank account. Also, incidentally, sir, you might have a checking account. You might have a savings account, which that debit card can access either at an ATM or at the point of sale system, wherever they may be. And you can choose, sir, to use that debit card in those places to do and pay for whatever you want to pay that the person may be offering. In your wallet, sir, you may also have a credit card, which equally will do the same type of service. But knowing you, sir, to be financially prudent, I know that you may be a person that might use your credit card at the beginning of the month all the way through and pay off at the end of the month, sir, to make sure that you are not utilizing your cash, sir.
I remember we have neither cash nor credit cards. So
this is the proverbial you, sir. The proverbial you. You, sir, may use your credit card to do your regular purchases, keeping your account balances, sir, healthy, and you pay off your credit card at the end of the month so that your credit rating is good, sir. You pay on time, you're not accumulating interest, sir. That's what you may be doing. But I just made that point, sir, that also in your physical wallet, sir, you may have cash in your physical wallet. But you know where else you have cash too, sir? You got cash in your car, in the little cubby hole, or next in the driver's door, sir. You got cash lying around at home, sir. And there may be times, sir, that sometimes we may have more cash, coins, and these types of things lying around the place, sir, than sometimes even in our bank accounts and the like. And the reality is, if you think of not just your physical wallet, where you may have a debit card, a credit card, or the physical cash and coins, you have coins and cash lying around, sir. What we are saying to Barbadians is that with the technology that we are rolling out, you have a choice, sir. You have a choice. With BIMPay, you can download the app, sir, when the time comes, and you can choose not to link any of your financial accounts to BIMPay. But you can still receive. So if I wanted to send you some money, sir, I can send you money on BIMPay. It comes to your phone. And if you wanted to go down Swan Street now, sir, and make a purchase, and there's a merchant who has the QR code, sir, to buy the few gifts that you're gonna buy down Swan Street, sir, or Broad Street for the madam, sir, for Christmas. You can scan your phone. For your wife, sir. For your wife, sir. For your wife, sir. For the avoidance of doubt, sir, for your wife. And the merchant, sir, is able to accept the payment digitally. They would check their account, sir, and know that once the QR code is, is valid from you, sir, and you have enough money in your digital wallet, then you can effect that purchase. Now, sir, you know full well, there are times when, you know, like around crop over or even in regular, you may go somewhere, sir, and you just don't have enough physical cash with you at that point in time to make the purchase. So then you have to make a decision, am I going to leave and come back, go to the ATM and come back, and then you have to start thinking about, well, where is the closest ATM? Because the person may or may not have the point of sale facility. And then depending, sir, on whether or not you have enough space on your credit card, or because you're managing your cash, your thing on your bank account, sir, because you may have some committed things there, you may not be able to effect that sale at that point in time. And therefore, it is important for Barbadians to appreciate, sir, that what we are bringing is the ability for you, as I said, you don't have to link your bank account to it. But if, sir, you wanted to effect that sale, and you chose to load in the same way that you have the debit card and credit card in your physical wallet, that you want to connect your financial accounts onto BIMPay, then you could easily, sir, transfer money instantaneously between the bank account that you have without having to go to the ATM and all this type of thing, sir. You would see what would be a virtual amount of money in your digital wallet, which is akin to the amount of cash you may have in your wallet physically. And therefore, the ability for you to do that transaction is easier because you're able, on the spot, to be able to make the transfer to the virtual wallet, effect the sale quickly, and therefore you don't have to go and worry about how much money to take out to the ATM, because as you know, there are limits to the amounts of money that you can take out of the ATM at any particular point in time anyhow. And therefore, what we are trying to impress upon Barbadians, that the launch of BIMPay is going to significantly transform how business is done in this economy. Now, sir, you are a small business. It's Christmas time now. And you know, sir, not everybody in town at Christmas, I mean at any time, but not everybody in town at Christmas come in town to do proper business. There are people in town all now, sir, who, if you ain't careful, sir, they can ease in your pocket, your bag, sir, you didn't even know that they're there. And therefore, as a security measure, I know that next year, this time, once BIMPay is launched, that by the time we get to December next year, that not just for businesses, but citizens being able to conduct their business in a much safer environment will be effective, because on the one hand, you don't have to worry about physical cash now and carrying physical cash in the way that I know, sir. I see on my way to Parliament this morning, I saw, but I couldn't get past Tweeside Road easily because Tweeside Road, sir, was booming with activity this morning. But I saw a lot of people walking into town, and I know that a majority of those people are walking with cash. And as you know, sir, every year the Barbados Police Service always puts out a bulletin to the public advising them about the people who are not in town to do any shopping. They might be in town to live, but then they may come into shop, sir. And therefore, it is important that the adoption of this technology is understood and that people appreciate that safety, not just physical safety. The central bank is working with the providers to ensure that clearly the cybersecurity systems are in place to be able to ensure that the systems are protected in the same way that your money in the bank is also protected from the cyber attacks with the online banking and the internet banking, sir. And therefore, the standards with respect to what players, I say players, but the stakeholders who will engage in this payments ecosystem, sir, will be in place. And so the central bank is very precise in what it calls a payment service, sir. And if you permit me, sir, it says payment service here on top of page 5 means any of the following: establishing and maintaining a payment account, executing payment transactions, acquiring a payment instrument, issuing a payment instrument, a money remittance service. So you know, sir, MoneyGram and Western Union and all of these types of payments, remittances, because you got family overseas, sir, they're sending, it's Christmas, they're gonna send you the code to tell you to go to either Western Union or MoneyGram, and therefore these are included in that, because rather than having to turn up at the store, the physical location, the ability for BIMPay to have that routed to you, so that you don't have to come down to get to the location to access the money, but we want to ensure that all of those things can be routed, sir, into your digital wallet, so that for convenience, things are in place. It doesn't mean that if you still want to come down and go to the physical location, you can still do so. But the ability, and that's where the back-end technique, data exchanges and stuff are happening, so that it gives Bajans the option, sir, to be able to accept money, but also pay money seamlessly. Storing an electronic money unit. So I spoke to those store cards, that, you know, and points and stuff that people will use and traditionally use more at Christmas. Transferring an electronic money unit. So conceivably, sir, I may have some points with a particular store, supermarket, sir, on my supermarket account. But right now, sir, I can't really transfer that to you because there's no medium of exchange for me to do that right now. So imagine, sir, that you and I in the supermarket, my bill come out a little higher than I expected, sir. Both of us have store points. And therefore, you could link through me, use some of your store points to give me that I could redeem at the counter. Now, you don't have to be there with me physically, but it's useful if you're there. But because the mechanism will be in place that allows us to convert and transfer all in real time, then it will mean, sir, that the few dollars that you lend me to purchase the few things will come down on your account. It will be credited into mine. I will be able to effect the sale, and therefore we are using the store points to be able to transact business. It says a payment initiation service, an account information service related to a service specified in paragraph A to I. And so a lot of work right now is taking place. So yes, the central bank is out there sensitizing people as to what will be happening, but there's a lot of work happening in the back end to ensure that once we launch in March of 2026, that everything, sir, is in place. And so this is important. Now, sir, today is Friday. And I know that we can see clear evidence, sir, of construction taking place all across this country. So when people ask where the growth is, I know that in construction, the workers know where the growth is. But it is Friday. Construction workers are usually paid on Friday, sir. All now, sir, I know it's 11 o'clock right now, sir. Contractors are either at some bank now, sir, trying to get the cash to pay their workers today, later this evening. And typically, and you know, sir, if you get to the bank too late, it's Friday, everybody want money for the weekend, sir. and therefore the bank line bursts, and therefore you gotta wait long. Not to be negative in that respect, but the point is, it takes time to get the money out. Then you gotta distribute it to make sure that, sir, that your pay is correct, my pay is correct, the honourable member for South Central pay is correct, and all of that. And sometimes on Friday evenings, the contractor is delayed and the workers are on site, sir, waiting for the money. That is the lived reality of construction workers in this country. It doesn't happen every week, but it is the lived reality of construction workers in this country. And so with the introduction of BIM pay, sir, it means that a contractor does not have to worry about going in the bank line, sir, at 11 o'clock to make sure he gets it. He knows that the honourable member for St. Michael's South is a class mason.
Yeah. That's true.
He's an A-class mason, sir.
Honourable is going to be able to read a spirit.
Well, when he can read a spirit level, that's a different subject, sir. He can handle the trouble. But that aside, he knows that what he owes him to this week. He knows what he owes you, sir, the steel bender this week, the carpenter this week. And therefore, rather than spend time in the line trying to get cash, it means that the contractor, sir, the small business, so remember, contractors are small business people. And therefore, the ability to pick up his phone because the client has paid him the money, sir. And the client also does not have to go to the bank and do a big draft and that type of thing, but that part has been taken care of, sir. The client has paid him. He's now paying his workers. He or she can go on their phone on Friday morning and effect the transfer digitally, either into the digital wallet of the construction worker. So in the same way that they will deliver cash, which they will put in their physical wallet, sir, they can deposit the money into the digital wallet and it will be there for them to see on Friday morning. Or they can choose to have it deposited into their bank account if they so desire through the same BIM Pay app, sir, for the construction workers. So for a construction worker, you don't need, or any other worker for this country, you don't need to have a bank account per se, but the ability to be paid and then for you to be able to do business on the weekend is entirely possible. And I cite that example, sir, because it means that construction workers now will no longer have to be waiting around on a Friday evening, sir, waiting for the contractor to be driving coming up, because, sir, as you know, depending on where the site is, the sites are not always easily accessible by way of, bus routes and the like, given where some construction sites are taking place. And so all of that anxiety will now be removed from people's lives because you know that you'll be paid, sir, easier and on time. But the only way you can do that, sir, is if you adopt the technology. And therefore, it is important that I know the central bank has been doing wonderful work so far. They've been going from as we would say, larboard to starboard, sir, to make sure that everybody is covered with respect to this thing. But the reality is the ease of doing business, the ease for people to be paid, sir, in this instance, I think will save a lot of time. It will save a lot of issues with respect to the cost of small businesses having to manage cash. Because as you know, sir, somebody will know that the construction site, the fellas that they're working, they know that it's Friday and the contractor in town making his way up the road to pay these workers, and could easily waylay the contractor on his way there, sir, to pay these workers. And therefore, it is important that with the rollout of these instant payment systems, that we understand that this is not for the big business people, you know, sir, the big businesses are already covered because they got payment services, them is accept credit cards and debit cards and all types of things, sir. This investment that we have made in this technology as the government of Barbados through the central bank is to ensure that ordinary people are included in this economy and that the opportunity for them, sir, to be able to either start new businesses, expand their existing business, to be able to have better record keeping, sir, because whilst we've done a very good job, I know the Honourable Member for St. George South in starting the trust loan program, sir, to be able, and remember, sir, remember, and I know that the Leader of Opposition also remembers why that was introduced, was because we wanted to give small businesses a credit history, sir, a credit history, so that they can move from 5,000 to 10,000. You have a track record. You want to borrow a little more money from a bigger institution, that you have a track record, a credit history that shows you're able to borrow and repay. And therefore, this digital intervention is really rooted in us being able to allow very small businesses to utilize this platform so that their ability to expand by being able to access financing. So it means you have better record keeping because you can track all of most, if not all of your revenue intake, so that any financial institution can look at you and say, I am satisfied with your revenue performance. I can see where your profit margin is, and therefore if I have to lend you $20,000, then I know that I can get back that $20,000 because I can see how you're managing your money, one, and two, I know that with this injection, you will then start to see a little more growth with respect to what is happening with your enterprise. And therefore, I know that there are times, when, as I said here on Tuesday, there are times that people will hear us here in Parliament and think it has nothing to do with them. The reality is, sir, this is a significant and important policy intervention that is rooted in ensuring that there is absolute financial inclusion, or the possibility for absolute financial inclusion. But it requires people not to fear the technology, but to understand how to utilize the technology to be able to grow your business and to be able to help with the ultimate transformation of the economy. And so this is not a poo-poo piece of legislation here today, sir. This is important because this will fundamentally transform the way things are done in this country. Too many times, sir, I bring it now to places like Oystein, sir. Too many times, sir, the ATM at the gas station at the bottom hill, sir, they run out of money because on a Friday night, the place bursts. None of the vendors in Oystein, at least, I speak subject to correction, but I do not think any of the vendors have point-of-sale machines. So when the ATM run out of money, and locals or the tourists want an extra fish, a few extra drinks, sir, you're constrained because you then have to go and find somewhere else where you can get cash. The post office run out of money. The ATM by the post office run out, sir. And therefore, we want people to understand that as far as possible, the adoption of this technology, these instant payments, will revolutionize how they do business. It enhances the security because it means, sir, that nobody can run in the place and just take up your cash after you work so hard for it, sir. I know that within the transport system, there will be equally the rollout of being able to pay digitally and offer discounts digitally, sir, to make sure that we can drive and change behaviors within that space, sir. And therefore, this really touches, sir, every aspect of the economy. Now, sir, I know that with the introduction of technology, there are some amongst us who are getting on. I say, getting on. And some things may scare them. And I know that the Ministry of Industry and Smart Technology, when my honourable friend here from St. Philip West was the minister, had engaged a program with respect to the digital ambassadors to help explain to Bajans what was happening with respect to technology. So I'm saying to our elderly citizens, the government of Barbados, working with with you, the state, and the stakeholders, will embark on a deliberate program to ensure that there are people that you can trust to help you to better understand how to use this technology. Because we cannot exclude people from the process. And I know that the honourable member for St. James North and St. James South in particular, with the Give Back program, is intended to ensure that we can utilize some of the time, the voluntary time, for our university graduates who live in all types of villages across this country. They live in families, sir, with elderly persons, that we want to be able to use some of that give back time, if you like, sir, to help change the perspective with respect to how our elderly citizens, our senior citizens, can adopt this technology. And I say that because I know that whilst the honourable member for St. Michael South is almost completed, and I know we're not supposed to talk about legislation to come, financial protection, sir, with respect to our senior citizens is absolutely critical in all of this. And I say, sir, there will always be people, sir, who are up to no good. They will be up to no good, whether it is in physical cash, trying to entice people, as you know, sir, between the blessing circles and people just plain old thieving, sir. In a digital space, the protections will be there, not just for senior citizens, but for the entire public, to ensure that our systems are protected and can withstand the constant threats that are there. But as you know, sir, and as I said it earlier this year, if something is too good to be true, then just left it out, sir. Just left it out. No matter the sweet talk, sir, no matter the promise, if it's too good to be true, sir, leave it out. And therefore, it does not matter whether I come down and put the cash physically in your hand and you tell me that if I give you $100 today, sir, that you're going to give me 300 Sunday. Because I would have to be a very trusting person to accept that somebody could turn around $100 and give me $300 by Sunday. But the point I'm making is that whether that happens with physical cash, it is still fraud, it is still deception, it is still theft, call it whatever you like. The same exists in the digital space. So there's no difference except that I happen to see you face to face in the analog space. But there's so many things bombarding people when the day comes on social media that people still message me to ask, is this true? Even the other day, sir, as you know, Banks Holdings is physically located in my constituency. And somebody was perpetrating something about Banks Beer and giving I think it was $300, I can't remember what the number was, whatever the number was, sir. And Banks had to put out very quickly that this thing was a scam. And so, because as you know, sir, everybody drink Banks. And therefore, Banks as a trusted brand, people may be deceived into thinking that when you click this thing, that Banks gave away something. After all, it's Christmas, sir. It's Christmas, so everybody got a little competition going for this and the next, the third. And therefore, it is important that people accept that that in of itself has nothing to do with the payment system, but what people want from you ultimately is to get money from you. The mechanism through which they get it is either for you to voluntarily give them, sir, your financial information so that they can, you know, if you decide that you want to give somebody your PIN to your card, sir, and they're able to clone your card, then they could go all down Broad Street, sir, and come right back up Swan Street and spend that money before the bank get a chance to call you and tell you that somebody, and it happened to me, sir. It happened to me. Not here. It happened to me. Someone had somehow in one of the data things with Amazon or something, one of those places. The bank called me one day, asked me where he was. I said, well, I'm here in Barbados. This is in early 2019. I said, well, I am in Barbados. But they said, well, somebody in New York at Forever 21, and the stores line up next to one another. So their fraud detection mechanisms are robust enough to determine whether or not fraudulent activity is taking place. All I'm saying to Barbadians is that the same systems and surveillance that is in place currently will be in place similarly on the digital side. And so within the ecosystem, we must work together to ensure that we protect each other. And therefore the responsibility of the providers, we as digital citizens, sir, so the long and short of it is, don't tell nobody your business, sir. That's the long and short of it. If you need to discuss something of a financial nature, you might have to make the time to go to the bank physically and do what you have to do, or ensure that the contact information, which is usually, sir, at the back of the card, the physical card that you have, that you only use that information. No bank is going to message you, email, or otherwise and tell you, click this, sir, and provide this information. That is the one thing that you can be assured of in the digital space. If your bank or financial institution wants to have contact with you, you know they're going to send you, it might be a little inconvenient, they're going to send you the mail, the address that you have on record, and they're going to tell you what they want there, and then they're going to tell you, go to the branch closest to where you are to ensure that the information that they want you to provide to them is updated. Now, whilst I accept that in a digital space we can do things easier, that is in place to ensure that any information that you transmit or is exchanged between you and the bank is as secure as possible. And so I want to give Barbadians the assurance that the systems that we have in place, whilst not 100% foolproof, sometimes it requires us to do something that is a little inconvenient in order to secure at the big picture level, to be secure at the big picture level. And therefore, no bank, no credit union, no payment service provider is going to send you no message telling you to click this and provide information about anything. And therefore, if anybody's asking you to do that, then that's the first red flag, sir. The first red flag. And so our systems are as good as each person is able to understand how to use them, not sharing information with unauthorized dealers. I said dealers, sir. As you know, you may be a small business. The honorable member for St. Peter is my accountant. So therefore, he has my authorization to act on my behalf. As I may need your services, sir, because anyhow, the point is, the honorable member is acting on my behalf, and therefore he would have access to my resources to be able to do that, which is the internal controls which are in place now for any business. And therefore, nothing necessarily will change with respect to that, because you don't just give people unfettered access to your money, sir. And anytime you have a situation where there's a single person with access to monies that are not theirs, sir, then you know that, well, you can trust some people, yes, but the reason you need controls is to ensure that no single person can always have access to the full set of resources. And I raise that only because in any business, you still need, and you're migrating to a digital platform, you still need to have controls in place to ensure that as you're operating and you're receiving stuff digitally, you're paying stuff out, you still need the same controls or similar controls, I should say, that you have currently in your back office. You need to have similar controls in place with respect to the digital space. And therefore, that still remains the responsibility of your management to make sure that those things are in place so that the protection of the business's revenue is as secure as possible. And therefore, whilst the intent is to make it as easy as possible for us to be able to do business, I believe, sir, that people and individual businesses still have to have the appropriate awareness with respect to controls that allows them to understand how to better manage their resources. And in a more digital space with respect to payments, it means then that you can focus more on inventory management and tracking, which is still pretty much a vulnerable part of any business, sir. Managing inventory, and therefore it is important that if you spend less time managing cash, dealing with checks, sir, and as you know, sir, some people might come in your store, they write you a check, sir, you give them the goods, 3 days later, the check bounces from the bottom of Broad Street, sir, all the way up to the top. And therefore you are exposed because you now have to go run after this person to be able to get what is really legally yours. With this type of framework, sir, digital payments in place, you still have a choice, and I want to be clear, sir. The government isn't telling anybody that you have to do this. We are giving you an opportunity to reduce your risk. Reduce the risk of theft on all fronts, sir. Reduce the risk of fraud on all fronts. And increase convenience, saving time. And as I said earlier, sir, time is money. So if you don't have to wait to do business, you don't have to wait to receive service, it means you can spend that time doing something more productive. So when we talk about productivity in the economy, sir, this particular intervention, adopted as broadly as possible, will increase productivity simply because we will not be spending time to either receive money or to get a service delivered. And therefore, in of itself, we believe that the economy conservatively will get an extra 1 to 1.5% in growth simply because of the time element with respect to business being conducted. And so long as we can see the velocity of money, sir, increasing, then it means that we are likely then to see increased economic activity. And increased economic activity, sir, means that GDP is growing, our debt profile is enhancing, and that the ability then for businesses to expand and expand rapidly will be there. And so this is a fundamental intervention, sir, critical to Barbados's social and economic future. And therefore, we are making this an investment as government to ensure that, one, if I have to transfer money from me to you, sir, personally, that in the same way that when I take $50 out of my pocket now, sir, and I give it to you, $50 is $50. When I do it from my phone to you, sir, $50 is still $50. And therefore, that is what we want to make sure is preserved with respect to the system, so that peer-to-peer is the fancy word for that, sir, peer-to-peer. It means I giving you money. But it doesn't mean, no, what it means, no, sir, is that I don't have to be, you and I don't need to be physically in the same place, or if we happen to trust the Honourable Member for St. Thomas, that I can give the Honourable Member for St. Thomas and she meet you somewhere and give you the money, sir, which is what happens in our society, sir. But that too involves logistics and time and all types of things. So the reality is that we're going to cut out all of that, I don't want to say doubt, but that waiting time, and therefore the ability for me to transfer to you directly will be there, and therefore, the ease and convenience factor is important. And so, sir, the next in the central bank bill, which I asked for the cognate debate, you will note that in section 50, clause 3, which is section 50, that it is regularizing the meaning of the payment system embedded in the central bank act itself, because whilst in the payment system, we said that the central bank will have the payment system bill in 2021, we assigned the central bank as the ultimate regulator. We are now embedding in the central bank act itself the definitions with respect to the governance around and regulations of the national payment system, which is there in clause 53. And we have some further exemptions at clause 72, which will exempt the central bank given the significant reinvestment that will have to be made there to make sure that they can undertake and upkeep the physical infrastructure of the bank, that certain exemptions are provided for there in respect of that. Equally, sir, as you know, as regulators have to issue guidelines for conduct, and therefore, at clause 72A, guidelines and directives to have the force of law, sir, so that the regulation of this particular sector, that in the same way that the central bank issues guidelines right now for commercial banks and Part 3 companies, because that is their core mandate when the central bank was originally set up, then we are doing the same here with respect to the fact that the payment system and the operators within the payment system, that similarly the guidelines and regulations and directives have the same force of law embedded in the Central Bank Act itself, will ultimately complete, sir, the circle, if you like, with respect of regulations in this regard. And so I believe, sir, that whilst, and let me just say for the record, sir, that I want to thank the World Bank for the technical support that they have provided the bank in this process. It is critically important to realize that part of the effort to get where we are today has been supported by significant technical assistance from a range of multilateral institutions. In this instance, the World Bank has provided that specific technical assistance in relation to ensuring that we have the right technology platform, sir, certainly as it relates to the legal framework. And I believe that we have been able to, in a relatively short space of time, given that we only had access to IBRD resources from last April or so, April 2024, roughly, sir, that we have been able, between then and now, to be able to unlock this technical assistance and be in a position that the central bank, working now with the stakeholders, with the testing of the systems, to make sure that we are ready to launch on March 31st. On the part of the government, sir, the Treasury Department is working alongside the bank and the providers to make sure that Treasury, at its core, is ready to be able to accept real-time payments. What that will mean, sir, is that between now and March, certainly, but it will continue into the next fiscal year, that government departments will have to re-engineer their processes to ensure that as we roll out the system in full, that any service that is delivered by a government agency that has an accounting function in the back end, that we are able to account for those payments, and that the payment of beneficiaries or any of those types of things, that once people adopt those technologies, sir, we can pay people in real time. And it is important, sir, to recognize that the Revenue Authority, as well as the National Insurance, will be, in effect, phase 2 of that, but I've asked them to start ahead of time to make sure that as soon as possible thereafter, that we are in a position to be able to make the payments. I raise that, sir, because I know that it being the Yuletide season, sir, and just forgive me, pardon me one moment. This being the Yuletide season, sir, and I want to say to Barbadians that this week, the Revenue Authority, sir, in relation to the reverse tax credit, sir, we have sent $16.2 million to various financial institutions, covering some 11,941 persons. 16.2 million for 11,941 persons to receive the reverse tax credit. There is an additional 2.6 million, which has been issued by check, sir, for 1,994 persons, because the Revenue Authority does not have bank account information for them. And so I hope that this time next year, when we are paying the next set of reverse tax credits, and the same will happen with refunds and these other things, that I hope that next year we will be in a position, sir, to make all of these payments into persons' digital wallets, because they would have adopted BIM Pay, and rather than have to be waiting for things to be routed, especially the person with checks, because you got to wait for the postman to deliver, sir, and then you got to find your way to a physical location in order to be able to access that money. And therefore, we are working, as I said, to make sure that the integration of the Revenue Authority is on its way. Similarly, I know National Insurance is equally working to make sure that they too, with respect to being able to deliver benefits faster, various government departments will be able to do the same, sir. So whether it is welfare payments, sir, whether it is payments for maintenance at the court, and these other issues that have been vexing and long-standing for some time, I'm saying to Barbadians that whilst it has taken a little longer, sir, than we anticipated, we are on the cusp of being able to see significant improvements with respect to Bajans accessing and having a different experience with respect to payments. And the same, sir, the reason we have the Treasury online is that with the small businesses and suppliers of government, our ability to pay you in real time digitally, equally, sir, equally, is important because of the need to ensure that, as I said, sir, the velocity of money, sir, increases in the economy. And I know that once money is turning over, sir, then goods and services being demanded, and we will have a much more robust and inclusive Barbados economy. And so this, I believe, sir, is transformational. It is not something that you can necessarily touch and feel, but with the exception of people actively adopting the technology, getting an understanding, sir, as to what it will mean for them personally, what, if you're a business, what that means for you in terms of being able to expand the possibilities for greater e-commerce, having much more focus on logistics and delivery, sir, so that I hope that every small business adopts this platform, because it will eliminate, sir, the need for someone to have to come physically to your location, sir, to be able to access what you're offering. And so rather than opening your doors, sir, hoping that people come and pass through and come into your physical location, I want that you are open for business 24. Being able to accept orders, sir, 24/7, so that your business is in the business of making money 24/7. And therefore, I know there are going to be a lot of different industries popping up as a result of this intervention, and therefore more credible business taking place. And all I can say to Barbadians is that the government is doing this to ensure that you have not just a better payment experience, but a safer and a much more secure enterprise. And therefore, we feel that with the work that has already been started and that will continue, we will continue to engage. We will work with the Ministry of People Empowerment to ensure, and Elder Affairs, to ensure that our senior citizens are included as it relates to persons with disabilities. We also will ensure that where the appropriate accessibility measures are in place with respect to the platform, that in the same way that exists on your phone as it is now, to work with the community to ensure that they too are as fully included in the rollout of this exercise, so that they too can have a better financial inclusion, just like any other citizens, sir, in the country. And so this is a deliberate, positive intervention, sir, and I am proud to be able to lead this debate this morning, because this is why we were elected, sir, 7.5 years ago, and we were elected to ensure that we transform the way things are done in the country. And I know that this, as an important pebble, if you like, sir, in the pond, is going to reverberate right across every facet of life in this country. And I know that from health to education to construction to barbering, sir, to you name it, sir, no matter the sector, no matter the industry, this is going to revolutionize, sir, how people do business. It's going to create additional number of jobs. I know that for the persons who are currently in cash in transit, might believe that this is a fear, but if you are already in cash in transit, trust me, you understand logistics already. And with the pending change in the way business is done, logistics will explode in this country. We are seeing an inordinate amount of packages coming in at the airport, sir, with respect to new businesses popping up, because we believe, or we thought, that those packages that were coming in at the airport was only related to the pandemic, but that continues to grow in a significant way. So if you are a person operating in cash in transit, I want you not to fear this intervention. You already move money, and therefore if you move money, you can move any other package, sir, with respect to what is happening in the economy in general. And so I am happy, sir, and comfortable that there will be additional opportunities. People will transition into different areas of the economy, and that this will drive significantly growth in the economy going forward. And so, sir, with those words, sir, I beg to move that this bill be read a second time. I'm with that.
Honourable Bishop.
Thank you, Your Honour. There would be something rather incongruous about participating in the chaplain's prayer and then not saying good morning to all 12 of the government members who were here during that prayer. And when I say good morning to my colleagues on the other side, it really is an expression of goodwill towards those 12 government members who have come to this debate today. I know it is Friday and the notice may have been late, but I say good morning and I say welcome to the Parliament, although that is not my job. That is merely an expression of goodwill to all 12. The dutiful dozen, one may refer to them. Now, as always, I enjoy the discourses of the Honourable Member for Christchurch East. Whenever I hear him in this new pedagogical style, the Honourable Member has been demonstrating, as always he has, that he's the hardest working member in this government. And the casualty of his labours really has been the constituency of Christchurch East Central, where absolutely nothing has been done. But I suppose you cannot be the hardest working and best minister in government and also be a good constituency representative. So that is a dilemma that will have to be resolved in the not too distant future. But I would, as a matter of graciousness, congratulate him for his continuing title as the hardest working minister in this government. So I do congratulate him, and I want to say to the Honourable Member that I really do respect and appreciate his pedagogical style. He really traces across legislation in a very earthy linguistic style, and at the end of it, one tends to understand all that the legislation is intended to do. Now, listening to this debate, and I'll be brief, sir, listening to this debate, two words really stayed with me: modernization and development. And that is what stayed with me. Oh, by the way, I also would have extended good morning to the newest lawyer in this house who seems not to understand the meaning of the word fired, even if it happens twice. So good morning to the newest lawyer among us. Now, Your Honor, I was saying that the words that stayed with me after the address, the presentation by the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central the words are modernization and development. And one would want to say that this thrust, this digital thrust that the government is making really falls within the category of modernization. The question will be asked, though, is it development? We know that modernization pertains to a process of change, and change that is new, novel, a change that facilitates speed. But development itself, or development concerns itself with human elements, human factors. And so when you modernize your payment system, can you say to the public that you're also concerning yourself with development? Now, the Honourable Member will be aware that there are several persons in this society who will find it hard to adjust to the thrust in digitization payment system. I mean, you just need to walk out the street, you'll see the vendors, you'll see the newspaper vendors, the fruit vendors, and perhaps the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central is not aware that there is present public protest against this. And it is protest not designed to reverse modernization, but it is protest aimed at preserving a space that is to them sacred. And the government will have to pull these persons along with that thrust, or push the persons along with that thrust. I was thinking of a program of education, and the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central resolved that for me when he said that the central bank is pursuing, and I think I quoted, a sensitization program, and that is good. It is good that the central bank is taking on this sensitization program. One of the bits of information I wanted to hear, I don't know if it was said and I missed it, but permit me to ask the question, Your Honour. What percentage then of cash payments, let us say March, well not March next year, but let us say a year after the system is implemented. What is the projection in terms of percentages? What percentage of transactions will be cash 1 year after? What percentage of transactions will be digital or online, as they say? And how will this affect financial order, or will it create financial disorder? It certainly is creating anxiety now, and one does not rise to oppose the initiative. One rises to clarify and explain and give comfort to those who will not be comforted by what is about to happen. Admittedly, there are even persons perhaps in this chamber on their way out who may not make the adjustment. So even in this chamber, you will have persons I am allowed to smile here because I have a very good sense of humor. I have a very good sense of humor. But when I'm making a point, I will make the point. And if anyone opposite me is on the way out, so be it. And we will want to assure the Honourable Member for St. Thomas, that in the year 2027, that member may still be doing her cash payments, because that is what she is accustomed to, that is what she is comfortable with, and joined by the present Honourable Member for St. Peter, he is an accountant. I know that, and a very good accountant too. Of course, being a very good accountant, he will get the chance to revert to that very shortly on a full-time basis. The Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central did say that he is his accountant, and he wants him back. No doubt he wants him back in full charge of all that he has. So I can reassure the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central that he will have his accountant back on a full-time basis very shortly. But to come back to the legislation itself, how can one oppose modernization? It is very difficult to oppose modernization, but at the same time, let us give comfort to those who insist on human development. Let us give comfort to those who insist on the preservation of their will to exercise personal concepts of development within the retention of a simple, I say simple and not primitive, because I don't think cash is primitive, but those who want to continue to reside in that cash system, I ask the government through its hardest working minister to give them assurance, to tell them for how long they will live in a cash society and what percentage of business transactions will be cash, let us say in 2027, March 2027, when I am sure, and that may well be the will of the Lord, that this place will be differently constituted. It is not yet the time to say farewell to many of my colleagues in here, but in 10 years' time, a lot of the citizens who refuse to leave that cash system will still be alive. And I want the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central to say to them what will be the nature of their commercial and monetary transactions. In 10 years' time, will they still have cash transactions? In 10 years' time, can they live their entire lives doing cash transactions? Of course, the Honourable Member might want to say to them it would be a backward thing if we are 95% in a society of digital transfers, and they insist. So if we are going to make extinct cash, we would want the Honourable Member to give this society some comfort, some prediction, not prophecy, some prediction as to when this government intends that this society will be cashless, if it is the intent of government to make it entirely cashless, or if it is not intent on making it entirely cashless, what percentage of transactions will be cashless? Will there be a segment of the population who live that very unsophisticated commercial life? Will they be able to exist within that cocoon of cashlessness? So that is the concern that I expressed in relation to the amendment. We live, John Donne said, no man is an island, and I want to say no island is a world to adapt. And therefore, if we are to remain part of a modern international community, things like this are necessary. International transactions, I don't think, are done in cash, and therefore you will want to extend the nature of transactions to the local or national community. So those are the only clarifications I seek from the Honourable Member as an assurance to this society that those who reside in cash, say to them how long they can reside in cash and give them some comfort. So those are my submissions, Your Honour. Those are my simple questions. Again, I say good morning to all 12 members of the government who graced us with their presence this morning, and I say to you, thank you for your patience. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honourable St. Michael South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Like those who've gone before me, I intend to be very brief in relation to this matter. But of course, I rise to support that which is before the House, as did the opposition leader, supporting that which is before the House, although it's very difficult oftentimes to tell where he stands, considering the way he presents. But I believe what he said was that he supports the bill, the matters before the House, and therefore I want to thank him for recognizing the wisdom of that which this government brought before the House. And I must say that I hope he remembers how it feels to be a member of a progressive, productive team that works to ensure that the vulnerable in this country are taken care of. Mr. Speaker, sir, I feel it necessary as the honourable member to my right, the member who brought the matters before the House, and the leader of the opposition both spoke on matters pertaining to the elderly. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that Barbados is an aged society. I've made the point several times that we are approaching what is called a super age society when 21% of your population is over 65. Our last census told us that we were around 20% or nearing 20%. Barbados has an aged society, and therefore, any legislation that we seek to bring to advance, to use the words by the opposition leader again, the idea of modernity and modernization, we must recognize that there is a significant number of our population, sir, who is approaching 65 and some beyond, sir. And it would be unwise for this government or any government to bring policies and do not take them into consideration. But I heard, and the opposition leader again admitted that perhaps he was drifting and did not hear, but I did hear, remember who brought the bill, say that there were going to be many things in place to ensure that older persons would have access to support. In fact, I heard him say, working with this ministry, the persons would get support. I did hear him say that the young people who do the Give Back program would be tasked, having been trained, would be tasked with working with older persons to help them get to this point. But Mr. Speaker, sir, I remember a conversation I had with the president of BARP. And BARP is very much progressive and in relation to how elder persons must move forward, older persons, BARP is also ensuring that they have an understanding of the digital realities of the modern world. In fact, I believe she goes further than me. She says that we must accept that the world in which we live, this is going to be how it is, how business is done, and we cannot get away from it. Mr. Speaker, sir, you would also appreciate that when we did a lot of these digital payments, we said that persons will still have the opportunity to receive checks when checks were the order of the day. When we started doing the payments for welfare and NAS, sir, we said people will still have the opportunity to receive checks. And a lot of what we do, sir, is done cognizant of the fact that it is going to be a battle, not only for older persons, there's some younger people too, but as time progresses, we who are in the generation now, sir, 40, 50, 35 to 45 and so on, as people get older, people have been born in the digital age. And so this idea that people will fear technology forever is obviously not going to be the reality. I think eventually, sir, when I, in another 10 years, sir, find myself legitimately in that population, I would have grown up. The opposition leader, sir, I think he's expressing some idea for me to feel comfort because he's been there a while. And while he continues to support remarks at the member for St. Thomas, I think they're in the same generation. And it is not a man who I consider to be a chivalrous man, sir. When he makes those remarks, sir, I feel a little bit disappointed. One, because I know him to be a decent, noble man, and two, because he himself is in that generation. It is a man who attacks himself, sir. A man who is at war with himself, sir, is a dangerous man, because if you turn on yourself, you will turn on anybody. So said the people of Christchurch South. But Mr. Speaker, sir, let us get back to that which is before the House, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think that is important. So when I was minister responsible for the fisheries, sir, and maritime, I remember having conversations, so because I feel this is the way to go, I remember having conversations with the fish vendors about the need to go digital. I remember when we were talking to the jet ski operators, we had many meetings, when we would be talking to the jet ski operators about the business that they could gain and not lose, sir, because while this is convenient for persons in the business world, so this is more convenient for regular people. And I remember saying to the jet ski operators at the time, sir, we were, you know, Barbados has a long way to go on many things. There was a time when they had to carry a paper ID card wrapped in a plastic bag, sir, to prove that they were legitimately allowed to be on the beach. We gave them ID cards. And we started having a conversation around having a proper ID card, sir, and you would be surprised to see how happy they were to just receive a waterproof, proper ID card. We then started having a conversation around having digital payments because they recognize, sir, that many people come on the beach and not coming with cash. Where Barbados is, or was, because this is like 2021, 2020, and I'm pretty sure where we are now, the world has long passed that. Many tourists do not come with cash. They have their phones, they want to make a transfer. So I use, permit me to say, sir, I think I'm allowed to say, I use First Pay. Many people now use First Pay. When you go to the barber wants to know if you have First Pay, where you just transfer the money in a flash from your account to their account. The world is changing, Mr. Speaker, sir. And again, the President of BARC constantly reminds me that it is not wise for us to try to keep the older population from the changes in the world, but we have to prepare them for it. And I think that is the charge of our ministry, sir, to prepare the older population for the changes that are coming in the world, sir. And I think we've been doing a fairly decent job at that, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we, in relation to older persons and the threat, and the Honourable member who led this debate, sir, would have said, sir, that in terms of financial abuse, sir, that older persons are prone to be victims of it because people think they're easy targets. And the legislation that we are bringing, Mr. Speaker, sir, I had hoped to lay it before the end of this year. Hopefully we can lay it early next year. I'm sure the Honourable Member for Christchurch South, as he has done on all social pieces of legislation, in all fairness to him, and all pieces of social legislation would find it one that he could support. Because we put in there, sir, some very serious penalties, and also, sir, as it relates to abuse of older persons, some serious jail time. Because we are taking this extremely seriously, Mr. Speaker, sir. Older people deserve to be able to live in dignity. They deserve to feel safe in this country, sir. And even as we modernize, we do not do so at the expense, sir, of our most vulnerable. And I think that is the point that the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central made repeatedly. And so I wonder, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I listen to the Leader of the Opposition, because the member who raised the bill was so clear in relation to what we are doing, why we are doing it, and how we intend to safeguard persons, sir, who come up against these kind of concerns. And you know, sometimes people create straw men. And people who are gifted, who have the gift of gab, can make people believe that something that is as innocent and as progressive as this is a dangerous thing. And people sometimes create straw men, Mr. Speaker, sir, so that they can attack the straw men and seem to be the savior of the masses. And, you know, I know the Honourable Leader of the Opposition likes literature. I remember Don Quixote, sir, de la Mancha. It is a great Spanish novel. The story is told of Don Quixote, sir, who loses sense of what is real. He's a noble man, very noble person, well-intended, but he loses sense of reality. And he stumbles upon some windmills and assumes them to be giants and engages in a war with these windmills. And sometimes, sir, I feel as if the idea here is that we find ourselves debating things that have been made windmills, sir, when in fact, sir, have been made giants, sir, when in fact, sir, these are actually progressive things as windmills probably were in their time. This idea that something that is progressive becomes giants to be attacked, sir, by a crazy person in literature. In literature, Don Quixote.
On a point of order, sir, would someone hold the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South and say to him that I did not oppose the legislation? Will someone cuddle him and tell him that?
Honourable Member.
Well,
Honourable Member.
you know, he's misleading the chamber now.
Honourable Member for Christchurch South.
Hold him, sir.
Honourable Member for Christchurch South. The Honourable Member for St. Michael's South has not said that you oppose the legislation. He has not said that. He said the opposite. He said the opposite, actually, Honourable Member. So
no,
please
no.
listen. Please listen. Please listen to the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South. You will do well to listen to the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South.
But he is misleading you, sir.
No, he's not. He's not misleading me.
If you allow me to finish, he said
I think you are trying to mislead me. Honourable Member, there's no point of order. I think you are trying to mislead me. And
No, I'm not trying to mislead you. I want someone to tell the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South what I said about the legislation.
Honourable Member, he was most... Honourable, you can sit down. It's not a point of... The Honourable Member for St. Michael's South was very appreciative of you.
Of me?
As it relates to what you said this morning. Continue, Honourable Member for St. Michael's South.
Thank you, sir, for rescuing me from
for Don Quixote.
Sir, I really enjoyed my conversations with the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. You know, I actually cherish his friendship. But Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't intend to be drawn out, because now, as I said when I began, I thanked him profusely for the support of that which is before the House. And in fact, what I said was that the Honourable, it is difficult to tell when he supports or does not support, but I think he supports, and I thank him very much for his support, sir. And my references, sir, to literature have nothing to do with the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Pardon me? Oh, no, I spoke of people, Honourable Mrs. Speaker, sir, I spoke
I remember you're speaking to the chamber.
Yeah,
Not me say, you're speaking to the chamber, to the
Mr.
House.
Speaker, sir, thank you very much, sir. I would never consider the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to be a madman, sir. I have a lot of respect for him. But I must continue my point on Don Quixote. In fact, no, Mr. Speaker, sir. Yeah, it's like I have tried, sir, to make these references purely as someone who enjoys reading, Mr. Speaker, sir, but, you know, when you do not attack someone and they run to their own defense, on a conversation around persons who are deluded, on a conversation around persons who are deluded, then it is clear that such delusions perhaps visit members on occasion, Mr. Speaker, sir, members of the human race. Don't draw any Honourable Member for St. Thomas into this, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, please address the chamber. If you do not get, Honourable Member.
I agree, Mr. Speaker, sir. I just find it, the Honourable Member for St. Thomas, Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, the Leader of the Opposition often, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition likes to call us out when we are shouting across or even whispering to one another, but he never listens in silence. The Honourable Leader, sir, the Honourable Member never listens in silence. In the chamber, sir, we listen. We often do not say when he says sometimes very unlikely things about other members, sir. As I said before, I think very highly of him, and sometimes when things are said that seem uncharacteristic of him, Mr. Speaker, sir, I tell myself that perhaps the Honourable Leader of the Opposition may be having a bad day. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I will not draw out the point on Don Quixote, sir. It just occurred to me, Mr. Speaker, sir, for those who haven't read it, though, there's a way people create these straw men and just attack them all day long. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, then some people, Mr. Speaker, sir, in other places, not in here, would take a 20 to 30-second framing of that attack on the straw men that they created and post it on social media to say, look how I defended the interests of the working class as savior of the working class, without saying that I created the enemy in the first place, because nothing, sir, was said of these things. It's the most remarkable approach to the debate. And as we near the end of this year, Mr. Speaker, sir, as we near the end of this calendar year, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am appreciative, sir, of the nature of theater and arts. As someone who enjoys theater and the arts, sir, that I am allowed to be exposed to sometimes even while I am here. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I just wanted to rise to support the legislation, to give the Honourable Leader of the Opposition the assurance, on a serious note, to give him the assurance that there is no way that we will allow legislation to pass in this place that exposes the older population, sir, and not put mechanisms in place to support them, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I feel it is necessary for us to be able to say that we will continue to work with BART, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central has already asked the Ministry of People Empowerment to help with the PR program and to do those things that would allow people to have that understanding. Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe that the questions raised by the opposition leader are good questions. And the fact that the question came after the answers, however, because the answers were given before the questions, might be perhaps a little bit surprising. But the questions were good questions. And because the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central had already answered them, I want to repeat the answer, that we will put in place all the necessary mechanisms to ensure that the older population, persons with disabilities, sir, those who are younger and do not understand technology, sir, would be able to access it, sir. But that we will not allow the thrust to modernity to compromise the support for those who are vulnerable in this country, Mr. Speaker, sir. And with those few words, sir, I thank you.
Honourable for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you, sir, very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to also thank the Leader of the Opposition for his support. I want to assure him that I want to assure him, sir, that I thank him for his recognition of the work that I have done, and to indicate that I believe my constituents recognize that all of Barbados, including them, have benefited from the work that not just myself, but the entire government and him when he was on this side, sir. When he was on this side. So I will leave that there, because like the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, let me thank him for his intervention. The reality is, if you create something in your mind and you repeat it often enough, you start to believe your own rhetoric. But be that as it may, sir, this government, we have been delivering and continue to deliver for all of the people of Barbados. And as much as he might wish to feel something in his heart, the reality is that feelings, sir, cannot change the facts. And certainly the facts can change feelings as appropriate. But the reality is we will deliver, sir. We have been delivering. And the purpose of this particular amendment today is to continue to ensure that whether the barbers in Wotton, the hairdresser in Wilson Village, the mechanic in Ashbyland, sir, the wholesale people in Vauxhall, the other mechanic and the shop in Edie Village, sir, all of the persons in Kingston who get up every day, go to work and participate in this economy, sir, the people in Durance, as well as the rest of Barbados, sir, will benefit significantly because of this intervention here today. And so I am confident, sir, that as we roll this out, that the people will start to understand why it's important that we have engaged in this process, because this is not a delivery solely for macroeconomics, sir, but it's to ensure that persons are integrated and included in this recovery that we have engineered, and this will further do so for them, their families, their communities, so provided, sir, that they adopt these technologies aggressively. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition asks specifically about the proportion of cash transactions that will be in place a year from now, 2 years from now. What we have observed is there has been a significant increase post-pandemic, in part, significant increase in electronic transactions post-pandemic, because as you recall, sir, when we were in lockdown, and I made reference in just a slight reference in relation to the fact that because persons were not traveling anymore, we saw a significant increase in packages being imported into the country from off of Amazon and a whole set of other platforms, which has spurred a lot of new careers and business within that space that we are seeing the impact of it today. And so the need for people to be able to continue that is significant because a lot of businesses then transitioned very quickly because the pandemic required that, because people could not come to your space physically, that we were able to see that increase in adoption of what was the existing technology. The reality is, sir, that in a year's time, as I just said there, and it is my hope that those roughly 2,000 people that we just sent out reverse tax credits for, because checks technically is the same as cash. And so certainly it is my hope that we can deliver to those 2,000 persons digital cash, quote unquote, and by extension, that Barbadians will see an adoption of the convenience of this technology such that they may desire not to have to take cash. I cannot give him a definitive number, but I can say this. As I said before, people will have an option with respect to whether they carry physical cash or not. But I think the honourable member from St. Michael South raised a very clear point that, and it's coincidental that the honourable member from St. Michael South raised the question in relation to the vendors on the beach, because they're no different to any other small business person in the economy. The reality is, as the honourable member for St. Michael West Central is bringing more and more tourists to Barbados with a plethora of Airbnbs within our community, sir, and the appetite with respect to the expectation that these people have in relation to how they will experience Barbados. If we want to encourage community tourism, and we want to increase the spend from tourists, whether on the beach, as the honourable member from St. Michael South has indicated with respect to the visitors to the beach themselves, or visitors in our communities, that our adoption of these technologies will in of itself significantly increase visitor spend, not just in the hotels as they do now, but right across the length and breadth of Barbados, such that no opportunity will be spurned if we adopt these technologies. And that in of itself, sir, as Bajans adopt these things, and I am in no doubt, sir, that people will, because nobody is going to allow a sale to go by. Nobody's going to, well, I don't think anybody in their right mind, maybe Don Quixote might, but nobody in their right mind would allow someone standing in front of you to say, well, I don't have any cash, do you have BIMPay? And therefore, I say, well, I don't have BIMPay, but the honourable member to my left and the honourable member to my right, they have BIMPay offering the same thing, the person will go to them. And so, the issue here is not, for me, the issue is not a question of whether there will be cash transactions in the future. Cash, as you know, sir, right across Sprite Street there's a big able vault there in Sprite Street that holds the cash. And let me make this point very clearly, sir. Having money in a digital wallet still requires the central bank as the ultimate clearance facility to make sure that there's cash to be transferred from one, cash balances to be managed and transferred from one institution to the next. The fact that there's cash physically in circulation still has to be the digital, so you don't just create new money because it's new money. the physical cash that's in circulation has to be linked to the digital space. As you know, sir, you can't spend money twice. You could convince yourself that you can spend the same money twice, but you can't. The reality is the management of our cash resources on a daily basis happens now between banks and the central bank. So if I transfer money to you, sir, from one bank to another, and there are a number of other transactions at the end of the day, 3 o'clock, when the balances are closed, Bank A says to the central bank, this is what Bank B owes me based on our record for the day, and the monies are transferred in the ledger, the fancy word, the thing up, the vault over there, sir, it transferred to make sure that everybody's balances are up to date, and therefore the issue is not whether the proportion of cash in circulation, but our ability to ensure that whilst we are doing things digitally, that whether the cash is physically stored at the central bank or in the vaults of the various banks, that if any Belgian at any point in time on their phone wishes to be able to have physical cash available, they can show up at any financial institution and be able to validate in the same way that, you know, back in the day, you should be able to go and cash a check with the app. So if I write a check to you, sir, from my bank, you would take it to yours and you get it cash, sir. The ability for anybody to be able to access the cash has to be honored. And therefore, whether it is on your phone digitally, if you want to withdraw that amount in cash, you will be able to present it to any financial institution because it is backed by the government and the Central Bank of Barbados that this balance that you have on your account is available to you in cash if you so desire. Now, of course, somebody might want to know, well, why the speaker wants so much cash? Well, you proverbially, sir, need so much cash given the volume of digital transactions taking place. But it is backed by hard currency in the vault of the central bank, in the vaults of the various banks and financial institutions that we have in the country. So I hope that that answers anybody's viewpoint with respect to the availability of cash. And I know that when we did the solidarity allowance a few months ago, I wish that we had been paid available, sir. Because if we did, we would have been able to do that in 24 hours. Everybody would have been paid smoothly, and rather than people having to line up and go through that process as we did a few months ago. And therefore, whilst we want to have the persons who are our senior citizens will have the options in the same way that the young people will have the options. I know and I expect that more and more persons will utilize the facility, and as a result, there will be less physical cash transactions, but it does not mean less physical cash. And therefore, for the persons who may not want to make the transition, they might find themselves not disadvantaged, but they understand that there will be a cost for any business that is now handling less cash. Because if the amount of cash physically in circulation now there's a certain cost to managing that, and it is certainly my expectations that businesses will want to encourage people to adopt a digital transaction process because it saves everybody money in relation to the pricing, and therefore I know that Bajans will understand that reasonably well. And therefore, I hope that the adoption is aggressive so that we can reduce the waiting times, reduce the delivery times to actually have more efficiency in the economy. And with more efficiency in the economy, Mr. Speaker, then I'm confident that the financial inclusion will be there. Persons will be able to have different options for expanding their businesses. There will be additional employment in new areas because of this particular intervention. But more importantly, just as we have focused on how we can ensure that Bajans will have convenience as we bring more and more visitors to our island, the ability for people right in the heart of our communities to be more included in the tourism sector, I think then becomes a lived reality, such that tourism generally is not seen as something that is West Coast, South Coast, but our community tourism products are lived experience for our citizens, and the ram shops and the bars and the people selling and doing services in communities will have equal access to visitor spend as the other more formal institutions in the tourism sector.
And the taxi operators.
The taxi operators, everybody. But it will broaden beyond the traditional tourism stakeholders the opportunity for Bajans to fully participate in the economy. And that is why we have been pushing so aggressively to have the hotel investment and the restaurant investment completed. You bring more people, and as people experience not just the traditional product offering, Bajans as well will be able, with respect to the community tourism program, will also be, will have the ability to access more visitor spend, and therefore the economy grows even further. And so, sir, I hope that answers the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I thank him for his support nevertheless, and to say to Bajans, do not fear. We will continue the engagement, we will continue the training, the sensitization, and as I said, accessibility certainly for persons with disabilities will be a feature of the process, as it is the case right now with certain disabilities as it relates to technology. We make sure that's consistent, and clearly it will be ongoing work, not just with the elderly, but those segments of the society that even though there is technology available, financial literacy, sir, financial literacy will still be a critical element, which I know the Ministry of Energy and Business have been, when the Honourable Member for St. James South was there, has started, and therefore we will continue to ensure then that right across the demographics that we're able to enhance the financial literacy to avoid people falling prey to the various nefarious scams that exist out there. And so, sir, with those very few words, I beg to move, sir, that this bill be read a second time.
The question is that this bill be read a second time. All those who are members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that you do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
Then second.
The question is that the Speaker do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those are members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it.
This Honourable House is now in committee.
Mr. Chairman, permission to call the clauses in sets, please.
Permission so granted.
Thank you. Clauses 1 through 5.
Chairman, I beg to move that clause 1 through 5 stand bar.
Then second.
The question is that clauses 1 through 5 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clauses 6 through 10.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clause 6 through 10 stand part.
The question is that clauses 6 through 10 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clauses 11 through 15.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clause 11 through 15 stand part.
Second.
Question is that clauses 11 through 15 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I beg now that you do not report His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chairman of committees is reporting the passing of one bill in committee. Honourable Christ Church, East Central.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
The question is that the bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the National Payment System Amendment Act 2025.
The question is that this bill be passed and so cited. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This bill is passed and so cited.
Mr. Speaker, order number 11, in name of the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Finance to move the second reading of the Central Bank of Barbados Amendment Bill 2025.
Honourable member for Christ Church, East Central.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a second time.
The question is that this bill be read a second time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that you do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
The question is that the Speaker do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Yeah, I have sent them back before.
This honorable House is now in committee.
Clause 1.
Chair, I beg to move that clause 1 stand part.
The question is that clause 1 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 2.
Chair, I beg to move that clause 2 stand part.
The question is that clause 2 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 3.
Chair, I beg to move that clause 3 stand part.
The question is that clause 3 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 4.
Chair, I beg to move that clause 4 stand part.
The question is that clause 4 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chair, I beg to move that you do not report His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
Second.
The question is that the bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the Central Bank of Barbados Amendment Act 2025.
Second.
The question is that this bill be passed and so cited. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This bill is passed and so cited.
Order number 12, sir. In the name of the Honourable Minister in the Ministry of Finance, to move the second reading of the Economic Diversification and Growth Fund Bill 2025.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to commence this debate just to give confidence to the country that the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program continues. And we have made strides in restoring economic confidence to the country. Our foreign reserve situation is well set, sir. Our debt continues to decline and is now below 100%, sir, at 99.8% from the highs of almost 200%, sir, 7 years ago. Fiscal discipline, sir, has been restored, but the plank which was critical and missing prior to us taking office was that we had an extended period of low growth, but we now have had 17 quarters of continuous growth, and thanks to the honourable member here from on my right, and the good work in the rest of the economy, agriculture, and a range of other areas. I know we had some slight debate on Tuesday about output and these types of things, but the reality is, sir, that the work right across every sector, sir, in this economy is performing, and therefore we expect that certainly this quarter and the quarters to come, barring any extraordinary circumstance, that we will see 18 quarters of growth, and that will take us into next year. I start there, sir, because our anchor from 7.5 years ago was that we needed to get our debt to GDP down to 60% by 2033. As you know, sir, the pandemic came. We pushed that target back to 60% by 2035. Underpinning, sir, that assumption was not just the reforms that we have been undertaking, but an average growth rate, sir, of 2%. And so even though we have, in the last 7.5 years, pandemic notwithstanding, sir, we recovered quickly. We have been exceeding that 2% average growth rate in the last few years, and we want to be able to continue on that trajectory. You and I both know, sir, that the government has had to expand its capital works program within the context of limited fiscal space, because we have to focus on paying down debt. And let me reiterate, sir, paying 70 cents in the dollar in debt 7 years ago meant that you really could not do anything meaningful for the people of Barbados. We've reduced that, sir, to less than 30 cents, and we intend to keep that at less than 30 cents in the revenue, in terms of the revenue dollar. But the focus, sir, is really on growth. The public sector investment program has delivered, meaning government's capital works program, sir, has delivered some of the growth that we've seen, but as you and I can visually see right across Barbados, from large investment in hotels, to people, ordinary Barbadians, building homes, to new businesses popping up. And as the bill we just debated, sir, once we can see an aggressive adoption of technologies, as it indicated, conservatively, sir, I expect an extra 1% of GDP in base growth purely from efficiency with respect to the adoption of the technologies conservatively, sir. But we've done a lot of work, sir, to deal with the FATF, OECD, FATCA. My honourable friend here from St. Michael South, which was perhaps less known to the public, started to address a number of the critical areas related to the International Maritime Organization in terms of their assessment of Barbados' state of readiness within the maritime space. Not a lot of things that Barbadians connect with directly, but would have experienced because either no business was coming to Barbados as a result of it, and therefore the honourable member for St. Michael South started diligently with respect to addressing some of those with very long-standing issues with respect to the Bridgetown Port and the regulations and all of that. The honourable member here on my right, sir, who is now charged with tourism and international transport, has been addressing the issues on the civil aviation side. Because when we came to office, sir, just like the maritime space, there was a significant audit that we needed to address a range of issues within the civil aviation space to make sure that Barbados' competitiveness, our ability to expand the carriers, to handle new aircraft, in the same way that in the port, we needed to build new infrastructure in order to be able to handle larger ships, doing more business in the country. These are some of the things that were less known that we have also corrected, and not 100%, but we are significantly along the way there in order to attract new business to the economy, sir. So we've done a lot of internal reform works to try to improve Barbados' reputation on the tax side, on the money laundering side, with respect to civil aviation, with respect to the maritime space, sir, in order to allow Barbadians more opportunities, sir, to participate and to be included. Because had we adopted a similar approach of the last government, which was to leave things unattended, sir, we would not be seeing the level of investor confidence in Barbados today, business confidence, and notwithstanding the fact, sir, that we have had some challenges because of external circumstances driving costs beyond Barbados' control. I know, sir, that consumer confidence is much higher today than when we came to office 7.5 years ago. And so we have been diligent in setting about unpacking the very things that were humbugging the country in order to unlock opportunities for Barbadians to participate in the recovery. And we are here today, sir, to in effect, start to actively prime the way with respect to diversification of the economy. Let me be clear, sir. Barbados is an economy that prides itself, sir, with respect to welcoming people to Barbados. And in welcoming people to Barbados, sir, we believe that if we deliver the best possible service of hospitality, that people will come and want to stay and come back to Barbados. As the honourable member for St. Michael West Central can attest, in relation to the people, the number of people who repeatedly come to Barbados over and over and over. And we want to broaden that not just from persons from the northern hemisphere, but people from the southern hemisphere, people from Africa, Middle East, and further beyond, in order to ensure that, one, we diversify within tourism so that we can remove the seasonality between April and November as much as possible, sir. So that is one important element with respect to the diversification component, and therefore we are seeing benefits from that, and we will continue, sir, to be able to achieve that. But beyond that, what I would describe as, because we can't get away from the fact that people want to come to Barbados. Whether we like it or not, sir, people can come to Barbados and like coming to Barbados, and we must value and treasure that particular fact. We have a level of stability. People come and can walk out the place and without confusing them, sir. That is what we must understand and value, and hope that that continues, sir, to be part of the charm of Barbados. And therefore, diversifying within tourism to bring more people to have more, what you would call, sir, capacity utilization, so that between April and November, not just our hotel rooms, not just our restaurants, but the same Airbnbs in our community tourism, sir, will also see more utilization of that space so that we can get even more foreign exchange earning in this country. But beyond that, because we know that obviously the pandemic showed us that you can have a shock that can have a significant impact on that. So, against all of that, sir, we want to have new industries in Barbados, new industries. And we have determined, sir, that we want to attract as much as possible, given we have no thanks to the last government that significantly impaired the number of young people that were studying science and all types of other things at the university. This government certainly has remedied that, and we will continue through the work that the Honourable Member for St. James North, carrying on from the member from St. Philip West with respect to educational transformation, sir, and the member for St. James South with the training of Barbadians, that we want to develop a framework that allows us to be able to utilize the skills of these Barbadians in science in particular, especially with respect to areas of R&D, areas with respect to pharmaceutical production, technology. Many Barbadians will see what is described as a spaceship up in Newton in my constituency, sir, and asking, well, what is going on there? And the reality is, sir, that we want to utilize that facility to be able to produce pharmaceuticals in Barbados, because as you know, sir, during the pandemic, the bigger fellas, sir, decided that they can keep for themselves, and then we had to hope, sir, that somebody remembered that the small countries in the Caribbean existed. And so building capacity within that space, especially given that we need more research for the development of pharmaceuticals suited to our genome, sir, is important. But that aside, we feel that high-valued research and manufacturing, where the earning of foreign exchange is at the center of it, but equally being able to employ, sir, as many Barbadians as possible in the enterprise, which is addressed in the bill, is really what we want to be able to utilize this economic diversification and growth fund to be able to do. So in short, sir, we will continue to build out the rest of the economy as is. And I say as is, meaning we will modernize, we can do more efficiency, we can improve service delivery, and set that on its own trajectory with respect to growth and momentum going forward. Because remember, as I said at the very beginning, our assumption with respect to the objective for 60% by 2035 is average 2% growth, which is entirely achievable with the existing economy as it is. But we do not want to be overly reliant on any specific area. We recognize that we have a certain concentration that relates to tourism. So we have to do our best to make sure we maximize from it. But at the same time, we want to, in a real sense, sir, you can see this here as adding yeast, if you like, sir, to grow the pudding, sir. We want the pie to be a little bigger. And the pie can get bigger two ways: growing the existing economy as it is, and adding new sectors to be able to diversify our economy, and therefore this is what this is geared towards. And so as we look at implementing BERT 3, coming out of 7.5 years of success, where we've been able to move the economy from less than 10 billion to just about $14.5 billion in size, we feel that it is important to add these new planks because of the acute vulnerability in relation to our size, the geopolitical concerns that we all share, and therefore we want to put things in place that as we are building out the further on the broad-based successes that we've had in the last 7.5 years, that we will be able now to say, look, we are going to allocate resources to ensure that we can broaden and diversify business activity in Barbados. So any business who can present to the fund a valid case with respect to being able to do something different that will allow us to have more employment of Barbadians, highly skilled Barbadians. And I repeat, the Honourable Member for St. James South has been given a very clear mandate by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet that Barbados is to be a training campus, utilizing the free courses that we have in Coursera, all of the institutions that we have on the island, to allow Barbadians, sir, to be, again, able to earn more. Earn more, because we're engaging in high-valued areas, sir, which physically we can accommodate, and we are building out under a sustainable industrial development framework, not just what you see at Newton, but we have strategically identified areas where we believe, sir, that these elements of manufacturing, different from what we have seen in the past, will stand us in good stead strategically, not just to build resilience from logistics or from the perspective of a future pandemic and those types of things, but generally speaking, to ensure that we are able to allow our people the confidence to know that they can live in Barbados, engage in what I would describe as cutting-edge technology development, cutting-edge pharmaceutical research, sir, cutting-edge to the point where even within our delivery of healthcare in this country, that we can see the marrying of those types of activities align with our expansion and investment within the infrastructure in health and a range of other sectors, sir, that allows us to be able to see a consistent and clear path with respect to diversification of the economy. I only give these examples, sir, because it is important that the public appreciates that we would be happy, or there's some of us who would be happy to just let things go along on the merry way as it is going. But I want to say to Barbadians that that is not enough, because I know that whilst we have developed a very clear climate investment plan, which has public sector investment in it, it also has private sector investment in it, and we will be implementing that climate investment plan, that there will come a point, sir, over the course of the next 5 to 6 years or so, where, yes, we will be implementing some of the capital projects as government, but there will come a point where the quantum of government investment in the public sector investment program will start to taper off, sir. And when we reach that point, we want, over the next 5 to 7 years or so, we want that by the time we get there, sir, that the bill that is before this chamber today, and we're able to have new businesses created in Barbados, employing Barbadians, that within that 7-year period, sir, within that 7-year period, that as these businesses start to get established, start to drive the foreign exchange earnings that we expect them to be able to achieve, have the level of employment, additional employment from what is in our current profile of the economy, sir, that the transition from the government's capital program starting to be reduced, that we should be seeing the ascendancy, sir, with respect to this additional set of economic activity, starting then to replace what will be the commensurate reduction with respect to the capital program. So whilst we accept that government always has a role to play in small open economies like Barbados, prudent economic management will dictate that we have to make sure that as we are mapping the path forward, sir, that we create an environment, sir, that allows us to see, in a sense, sir, a smooth transition, I hope, with respect to the level of investment that will be required from government relative to new economic activity taking shape, if you like, sir, over the course of a 5 to 7 year period. Of course, we would like it earlier, but with the best in the world, you need to have your facilities put in place. We've already started with respect to what's taking place. Certainly at Newton, we are modernizing the rest of the infrastructure as it relates to the Barbados Industrial Development Corporation, or Export Barbados, sir. And therefore, it is that perspective that I want to share with the Chamber is the reason for the bill before the House today. And whilst this is important, because in order to create as much as possible a buffer with respect to any potential shocks that might arise down the road, we believe the work that we will continue to do within the context of the existing profile of the economy, that this is going to be critical, sir, with respect to the medium to long-term future prospects of a Barbados economy that can actually be considered to be effectively diversified. So the Economic Diversification and Growth Fund, sir, is a fund to be established, and the purpose of which is to provide financial support to qualifying companies to increase employment and contribute to economic growth. I should say, sir, that the earning of foreign exchange, and there are a few amendments which we will make to the text in committee, but the commitment to the earning of foreign exchange is going to be absolutely critical with respect to this as it relates to the job. So companies obviously will have a real and substantive economic presence in Barbados, sir, in order to be able to be considered to be qualified with respect to the fund. And this is going to be important. Now, we will establish over the course of 3 years or so, $225 million into the fund, which we will appropriate, obviously, over the 3-year cycle in order to ensure that the resources would be available to be able to achieve the objective. There will be a committee which in the schedule, sir, the committee to make recommendations in relation to the fund, ex officio, the Director of Finance and Economic Affairs, who shall be the chairman of the committee, the Governor of the Central Bank, who shall be the Deputy Chairman. We will also have the Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados International Business Promotion Corporation, otherwise known, sir, as Invest Barbados, and the Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Investment and Development Corporation, known as Export Barbados, as well as 2 members, sir, appointed by the Minister. As I said, sir, this is rooted in our ability to not just achieve a sustainable industrial framework as additional areas for new investment. We want to accelerate as quickly as we can, given that we have been utilizing resources from the Industrial Development Fund, which have been used to construct the spaceship, as you like, sir, that people see at Newton. And we want to be able to spur on this kind of thing, but in order to have an ecosystem where you're having high-valued research done, cutting-edge work being done in the country, you need facilities where you can attract that type of activity, given the standards, one, that are required in order to meet the thresholds for access to markets, in order to get your products into the market space, and therefore the highest quality environment, quote unquote, sir, is critical with respect to being able to achieve these objectives. And so what we have agreed is that that committee obviously will assess any applications with respect to companies that might meet the criteria which we will set out thereafter. The National Growth Council, sir, is charged with shaping, if you like, sir, policy to be able to help the economy continue to grow, sir, and therefore any recommendation with respect to accessing the fund will be aligned with or consistent with, or I should say in consultation with respect to the Growth Council as to whether a company qualifies for resources from the fund. And therefore, we want to say to Barbadians that this effort is an attempt to ensure that we can add new pillars of growth, which is not going to happen overnight, sir. And therefore, if you want to see not just the earning of more foreign exchange, we want to have a more inclusive, again, set of skills being accessed for these companies to be able to utilize. New areas of in a sense, are breaking new ground to help transform the Barbados economy. We believe that this, along with all of the other work that I mentioned in relation to civil aviation, to the maritime space, sir, we are currently working on the regulations through the Barbados Pharmaceuticals, Inc. in relation to the regulatory framework that's required for pharmaceutical production and those types of things in the country as it stands. It's been happening for the last, in a sense, 3 years, but certainly the AMO work and the civil ICAO work was started from when we came to office, sir. We've reached a convergence point now, sir, where in order to accelerate, we want to make sure that we are very targeted with respect to our intervention in this space, such that it gives us the best opportunity, sir, to add that new activity, which over the next 3 to 5 to 7 years, that we then start to see a shaping of the Barbados economy that is very different from the trajectory that we have now. And whilst I repeat, sir, that we will continue to diversify within tourism, I know that the Minister of Agriculture, in the introduction of climate-smart technologies, is also, in a sense, sir, diversifying within agriculture in relation to changing the way that things are done, which means that you can produce more, safer, traceability is in place, sir. All of the things that you know you need for accessing markets, all of the fancy non-tariff barriers that were used to stop our products from accessing the market, sir. All of these are things that we are undertaking within the existing economy to change standards, to improve on our ability to get into the market and get our products to market. These are things that will continue. And therefore, we want to make sure that there will never, ever be again, sir, a time in Barbados where there's little or no growth. We do not like the fact that there has been a lost decade, sir. And therefore, this is to protect average Barbadians from that kind of acute vulnerability. And so I am confident, sir, that we can financially engineer any solution. I am. But it's up to Barbadians, sir, to stay the course, so to speak, sir, stay the course, because it is, I think we have been able to demonstrate these last 7.5 years that in spite of the very many challenges that we have been faced with, that we have come out the best and we've come out on top of it. And if we've been able to accept that, notwithstanding that there may be wars in other places, which I cannot conceive, I really cannot conceive of what that must be like living in a war zone or the prospect of war. We have gone through a very, very serious 7.5 years, sir. But in spite of those challenges, sir, the Barbados economy has proven itself to be resilient. We can now further bolster that resilience by being strategic, by being purposeful, sir, that allows us now the opportunity to ensure that no young Barbadian or no skilled Barbadian necessarily has to leave these shores in order to believe that they can contribute something meaningful to the world. And so as we are priming Barbadians through the training opportunities, the matching of those training opportunities with new investment is going to be important. So in as much as I know my honourable friend from St. Peter has established the jobs register, sir, with respect to connecting opportunities in the economy, shaping and showing where opportunities exist. The honourable member for St. James St. James South is going to train people out of their skin, sir. But we will train people out of their skin and show them a path, sir, where that training can be utilized so that the very little resources that we do have, that they are as streamlined, sir, as possible. And therefore, I reiterate, sir, the work that the honourable member for St. James North is continuing with respect to education transformation, sir, is just as important, because our young people must know and see and feel, sir, that this place we call Barbados, whilst there is their home, they must see themselves as part of building the future Barbados. And therefore, the expansion of opportunities, the bill that we just passed, sir, with respect to payments and technologies, and I know that a whole range of different things are going to come from that. I know that we will be in a position, sir, to have as strong and resilient an economy as possible if we're able to build these new areas and do them within the shortest time frame, sir, to be able to ensure that not just that Barbadians are employed, but that the earning of foreign exchange and the foreign exchange actually staying in the country is going to be significant. Now, what is equally important, sir, with this particular initiative is that it is my hope, sir, it is my hope certainly that I and my colleagues will be here in 7 years to see it come to fruition. But in 7 years' time or so, sir, I expect that the output with respect to earning foreign exchange and jobs, but equally, sir, the additional revenues, tax revenues, given that we've set up the Globe rules to come into effect from income year 2025, we've set up the patent box framework and tax credits that we did as part of that to be able to drive areas of new investment, sir. I believe that once we stick to the script, so to speak, sir, that we will be able to see additional and significant tax revenues, sir, that allows us to be able to deliver enhanced and better services for the people of Barbados moving forward. And so I believe that this is a pivotal moment, sir, with respect to being able in a position now to chart our future in a way that we were not necessarily able to 7.5 years ago. And so I think with confidence of having turned the economy around, we don't take any of that work for granted. Our reputation has been restored, sir. We shouldn't take that for granted either, because we have to not just maintain, but enhance that reputation so that any business will feel confident to invest in Barbados, employ people in Barbados, earn foreign exchange for Barbados, sir, and diversify the Barbados economy, sir, is where we see this bill adding to our toolkit with respect to being able to build a more resilient Barbados. And so, as I had mentioned, sir, the earning of foreign exchange, which will come by amendment here, will be added to clauses 7 as well in relation to the determination of applications. And so there will be a new B with respect to the earning of foreign exchange, which will be added to the bill. But suffice it to say, sir, we don't just, and this is not in any way, sir, to be judgmental in any way. You recall, sir, that what is now Sheraton Mall used to be Intel. We made chips, and up to I think I believe it was February of 2020, there was the last chip company closed in Newton in my constituency. I forget the name, but it was around that time, sir. And it really was to my regret that certainly at that time, just as the pandemic was about to kick off, our finances and stuff weren't even in place in shape, sufficient shape, that would have allowed those persons who were involved in that business, even though they're relatively high skilled, comparatively, there wasn't the appetite amongst the staff to do a potential management buyout to be able to continue that kind of business. But as you would know, sir, the race is on now for all types of lithium and copper and cobalt and all types of things around the earth, the world, in order to be able to produce batteries and high-valued technologies. And therefore, I make the case that whilst we won't necessarily have that type of manufacturing like that before, the reestablishment of sustainable industrial and manufacturing of high-valued materials, products, is going to be part of Barbados' future. We've already set things in motion for that. This is now to make sure that we can actually make it happen within the time frame that suits, based on projections, that allows us to have a smooth transition as government's public sector investment program over the next 5 to 7 years starts to taper off. And therefore, we want any momentum for growth to be continued, so that it is not just about whether the debt to GDP will come down. We know that it will come down, because we will drive the growth and decisions to make it come down even faster. But that is one measure of success. But what we really, really, really want to achieve out of the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program is to have a much more diversified economy, sir, a much more resilient economy. And as I said earlier, that means adopting technologies and different range of things within the existing economy, whilst we add genuinely so, sir, additional and new areas with respect to economic activity that allows us to be able to be less vulnerable, notwithstanding, sir, our size. And so the bill is here. The amendments that I indicated will be related to the earning of foreign exchange and making by ministerial order what those amounts will be. But in the substantive bill with respect to clause 7, we speak to the fact that we want to have senior positions, sir, as much as possible within these areas. We want to make sure that staffing will be at least a minimum of 100 Barbadians, sir, and that employment, sir, must be for a minimum of no less than 7 years. So it means that if you're coming here to establish substantively in Barbados, or you are expanding into a new area in Barbados, that in order to access resources from the fund, that the earning of foreign exchange, these jobs, which is not just near jobs, because we don't want low-paying jobs, sir. That's not part of the programming at all. The member for St. James South and the member for St. James North will deal with the education transformation and the training part to make sure that we can enhance our skills so that our people can get the best paying jobs possible, sir. That is their mandate. And I know that the Honourable Member for St. Peter in the jobs register will be able to make sure that we identify and match people, notwithstanding the fact that I hear people keeping noise, sir, about not having notice about the minimum wage, sir, of late. But that's a different subject. The reality is, it is our hope that over the long term, sir, that whilst you can never eliminate the need for a minimum wage, I hope that through these interventions, sir, and unlocking the talents of our Bajans, that less and less people will be relying on a minimum wage order to see a better life for them and their families, because we've been able to enhance their skills and to be able to unlock for them through not just this particular intervention, but as we do the other elements in relation to diversification for the economy, that we are in a position then to see them being able to earn substantially more, sir, than what they're earning today. And what is the no C will speak to obviously the obligations for being tax compliant and those types of things in relation to income tax, and of course, national insurance and those types of things will be important. And so you present your proposal, sir, the current size and scope of the company's operation in Barbados, the scale of proposed increase in employment, sir, in both absolute and relative terms, the proposal for the expansion of either your existing operation or new, if it's a new thing altogether, and to ensure then that obviously it accords with what certainly the Growth Council, what the Cabinet wants in relation to this policy direction, to make sure then that we are in a position to as I said, build out a more robust and a more resilient Barbados economy. And so this diversification effort, sir, is not to be taken lightly, because we have to do our utmost to ensure that we reduce our vulnerability, even though we are diversifying, as I said, within tourism and agriculture and these areas, to be able to match renewed investment in those areas, introduction of new technologies, have the linkages clearly defined across sectors, and add this new additional activity, because we are seeing down the road, we are seeing ahead, sir, where at that point where the tapering of the public sector investment program will occur, that you will need new activity taking up the slack for which government certainly has been driving over these last 7.5 years. And so we are confident, sir, that this is one of the ways that we believe we can sufficiently diversify the economy and do so in a responsible way, do so to allow Barbadians to see that they have a role to play in the recovery, and by the same token, sir, earn more foreign exchange, have more tax revenues in the medium term, and allowing us, as I said, sir, to be less vulnerable and to build greater resilience as it relates to the economy. And so, sir, I promise not to be long, but I think that we have had a good and robust 7.5 years, notwithstanding the challenges. We want in the short term, as we will see, a continuation of the growth trajectory, but this is really about building a foundation, or a cornerstone, if you like, sir, with respect to being able to ensure then that in the medium to long term, that along with the existing work that we're doing, we're able to build new pillars of economic activity, provide additional opportunities for our Barbadians with high-paying jobs, so that our social capital, our social investments in education and in health and the other areas that we're putting in place, that this Barbados economy will be more diversified, more resilient, and less vulnerable, sir, to economic shocks. And so with those few words, sir, I beg to move that this bill be read a second time.
Honourable for Christchurch West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that this sitting be suspended for lunch until 2:30 p.m. today.
The question is that this honourable chamber be suspended until 2:30 p.m. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.